Bust it.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to Political Platform. My name is Amechi Anapwe. Lots of events, issues, and developments taking place in Nigeria in the last 24 hours, bordering on politics, bordering on our economy, and even policies. At the State House, Abuja, it was a meeting of the president with a delegation of the Nigerian Governors Forum, and the president asked them one question. How can you be sleeping soundly and snoring and dreaming when salaries of workers in your states have not been paid? Have you ever imagined how they will be meeting up their commitments, payment of house rent, school fees, and daily upkeep? But the governors are putting it on the president to release the remaining 50% of the Paris Club refund debt the federal government owes the states. So far, 760 billion naira has been given to the federal states by the federal government in 2 tranches, excluding the bailout fund the government also made available to them, but the states are asking for more. Now, what is the position of 2 former presidents of Nigeria produced by the PDP about the party? Let's start with the immediate past president, Goodluck Jonathan. He says the convention of the party slated for this December is a crucial one, and that indeed the party must be careful in the choice of who is the chairman of the party. He says if they get it wrong this time around, the party is simply finished. He also said they need to also find out who they will be appointing as the National Publicity Secretary. These 2 positions are very crucial to the survival of PDP and his return to power in 2019. But for former President Obasanjo, the first president produced by the PDP was in office for 8 years. He says those asking him to come back to PDP is like asking a dog to return to his vomit. He's describing the PDP as what he had vomited, and there's no way he will return to the party, insisting he will remain a statesman. Uju Ejeye is with me in the studio today.
Amechi, I don't know, all I can do, to that statement is laugh. I mean, we all know Baba and his ways. And certainly, you know that he fell out with the PDP somewhat. And I think he's just voicing his sentiments at this point in time. But he should also remember that was a baby he helped to build. And as such, you don't throw away your child like that. And as for getting it right, I'm sure that every single member of the People's Democratic Party knows that this convention, is one that will make or mar the PDP. They've had a successful non-elective one so far, yes, with all the pomp and pageantry, but now reality, my friend would say reality.com, reality has come. And the PDP cannot afford to blow this chance. And the choice, like former President Goodluck Jonathan said yesterday, the choice it makes in the case of the chairman, the national chairman, and the secretary and publicity, in fact, the key positions would go a long way in determining whether the PDP will be a factor to reckon with come 2019.
Well, the former president made that statement when he hosted High Chief Raymond Dokbesi, the founder of Dark Communications PLC, who's one of the leading front runners in the race for the PDP chairmanship seat. We shall be giving you details on that later. But first, let's get to hear from you. Let's feel your pulse. But to tell you that we promise you we'll be going to Imo State. We'll be speaking with a media advisor to the Imo State governor on the much controversial visit of South Africa's President Jacob Zuma to that state. But first, let's hear from you.
Thanks, Amechi. Welcome to the mail segment. I'm Amaka Okoro.
I'm Saiti Yari. Welcome.
We'll begin with the Senate's call to President Buhari for a separate power minister, and it's coming from Rauf in Abuja. The mail reads, the call by the Senate to President Muhammadu Buhari to appoint a separate minister for the power sector is long overdue and commendable. Many Nigerians were optimistic that Nigeria will be rid of her numerous problems in the sector when President Buhari merged the Ministry of Power, Works and Housing and appointed Babatunde Fashola as the minister. 2 years after, the story remained the same as no meaningful progress has been seen. Many of his policies, including his monthly meetings with the DISCOs, GENCOs and TCN, that we expect will be a platform of positive redirection, unfortunately yielded no good result in terms of power sufficiency for Nigeria. Nigerians therefore hope that the president will heed this call and do the needful. God bless Nigeria.
Collins Eze in Abuja writes on the state governor's fresh bailout demand. He says, what is the rationale behind these fresh bailout demands by state governors? What have they done with the first bailout and the Paris Club refunds? These are governors who, amongst other things, share proceeds from crude sales and also generate funds internally. Instead of being creative by looking inward for great potential scattered all over the country, they are looking for cheap money to use for jamboree. Let the federal government demand a thorough account of every kobo spent out of the previous bailouts, and the various state assemblies institute internal probe of what these monies was used for. God bless Nigeria.
And Dixon Eka in Abuja writes on the plight of Nigerian workers. The mail reads, President Buhari's voice on the payment of workers' salary has been very loud, but an action to these calls is necessary. In the type of country where politicians look for possible means to overblow their expenditures to cover their revenues, a practical action beyond the advice given to the governors in almost all the meetings with them is necessary. Workers are retiring every day, with some dying without replacement, but the state wage bill has never reduced, even when such states placed embargo on recruitment. The issue of non-payment of workers' salary is a serious war that is killing people massively on a daily basis and needs urgent attention. The president should consider an option of declaring a state of emergency in any state that received federal allocation but couldn't pay salaries for more than 3 months.
That's it on the mail segment for today. Keep sending your mails to the political platform at yahoo.com.
Busted.
They present the popular radio program Political Platform on the Ray Power FM network. Ray Power FM Political Platform, now on television. Keep track of the country's polity and be part of the process as they discuss and put political developments in the country into perspective. It's Ray Power Political Platform on AIT Abuja.
Okay, thank you so much for your mails. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Of course, if you miss this broadcast live, just go to our YouTube channel, AIT Political Platform. AIT Abuja, of course, serves you this program later on this evening, as well as AIT International if you're outside the shores of the country. So many of our listeners concerned about the state of finances of states government. Of course, they are asking for fresh bailout while the president is indicting most of the governors for failing to pay salaries. Some are suggesting that the federal government should do more in ensuring that fiscal discipline and prudence are instituted in the states. But unfortunately, we run a federal system of government. The only way a federal body, a federal institution can interfere with the functions of the state is just through the use of the anti-corruption agencies, EFCC and ICPC, to look at their books, of course, look out for possible infraction with a view to, of course, reining them in court. Beyond that, it can only start and end with pleas made by the president, just as he did yesterday. It's federal system of government where the states are in a position to determine how they spend their money. We should devote more attention towards reawakening the almost comatose other institutions and structures of society at the state level, the houses of assembly, the media in these states, and name them. So many of them, they seem to be have gone to sleep, pushing up the governors to be demigods and spending funds allocated to the states, even internally generated the way they like, without being challenged by anybody, any group, or any institution.
Amici, I wonder the moral premise on which the governors stand, to make such demands. When I saw what happened at the Aso Rock Villa yesterday, with the governors going to ask for a release of the remaining London Paris fund, I was just surprised, considering the kind of scandal that has been rocking, even the one that has been released so far. We know the one in Kogi State, we know the one in some other states. You collect such huge sums and then you cannot pay your workers. The situation is almost where it was before even the first tranche was released. And I begin to wonder if the president will indeed accede to their demand, unless, of course, he has proof that the ones that have been released so far have been judiciously utilized. Like one of our listeners or viewers said in his mail, you see a situation where people have died in the civil service, some people have retired, yet the workforce, the figure remains the same. And through these means, the civil service siphons money, crucially needed money for the development of states, and it has continued over the years. Of course, a state like Kogi State has gone ahead to try to verify and restructure its civil service. There are some other states too that should take that example, so that at least when you get these monies and you're paying, you know who you're paying to. And on the other hand, let governors have a conscience. Let them not divert these key funds, because it may make or mar their states, because a situation where the workforce is not well catered for, how do you get productivity?
Okay, first let's introduce Adeba Abodere, who's joining us now.
Yeah, thank you, Amishi. And
I think before we go further, let's go to Imo State. We promised you, we want to hear from the horse's mouth, Imo State government, on the controversial visit to the state by the president of South Africa, Jacob Zuma. His statute unveiled in his favor, and he was given the highest titles and honor of the state. We're now being joined by the Senior Special Assistant, Media Electronics, to Governor Richard Okorocha, and Dr. Berens Deuji. Hello and welcome to Political Platform.
My pleasure.
So I guess you have seen the reactions from not just the citizens and people of Imo State, but Nigerians on the visit of that South African president. How do you react to all these allegations that the government was wasteful, was insensitive, and was one that was not guided by reason and rationality?
Okay, clearly speaking, there's no controversy and there was no controversy. It is a very simple thing. The president of South Africa was here on a working visit and also on a private capacity. First, he brought South African businessmen to come and discuss and sign a partnership agreement to develop Edema Industrial Park and Imo International Cargo Airport. On this side of the divide, Imo State government assembled businessmen from Imo State and the Southeast, namely Innocent Motors, Chief Yostan Eke, Chief Jerry Chukwueke, Professor Morrisu, and so on and so forth. These two groups signed agreements to develop an industrial park in Imo State and also to develop Imo International Airport into a cargo airport. So that is on that side. Two, Jacob Zuma has an education foundation, that supports and promotes scholarship for children in Africa. Same with Governor Richard Okorocha. Governor Richard Okorocha recently took 5 children from each of the 55 African countries to give them full scholarship. And partnerships were done and signed at that level as well.
Now, it's one of the areas where critics have hit hard at the government, saying the Imo State government spent huge sums of money for a partnership for a private business and enterprise of the governor. Richard Okorocha Foundation, you called it. It belongs to the governor and not to the Imo State government.
My brother, remember I told you, like in the first part of the discussion, that he came also to sign agreements, for economic development for the state. In fact, a statement was issued by Imo State business community a few minutes ago to say that, look, this president came with his economic team to come and discuss with them on development. The one of the MOU is on a private side, the things of interest or of passion to them.
So is it morally right for a governor to use taxpayers' funds to host a foreign dignitary just for the purposes of signing a memorandum of understanding in an organization that is private to him?
No, but I told you that this guy came on a working visit, to the state. A working visit on the state. It doesn't mean they can't talk about their, personal passions and interests. If Jacob Zuma likes to play golf on his visit, wouldn't he go to play golf, when he comes on a working visit? So, our people should learn to, focus on the main issues.
But was it also proper?
I also heard about 520 million being used, to erect a monument.
All right. Was it also proper? Was it also proper for all that fanfare and for the statue that was erected, even at a time when the state government is owing workers' salaries?
No. My sister, there are procedures and pumps associated with the visit of the president. Then let me also say, our society should begin to grow like developed countries. How can somebody say that 520 million was used to erect a monument?
How much was spent? How much was spent?
That is ridiculous. Our people should start.
How much was spent in erecting that monument?
Okay, let me answer that question. There are about 5 or 6 statues in the Imo State Hall of Fame. The Kweme statue is there. The president of Ghana statue is there. A Obasanjo statue is there, and so on and so forth. Okay? Why didn't the opposition, talk about the status of the other people that is in the Imo Hall of Fame?
You've not told us the amount. You said the amount quoted in the media of over 500 million is not the right figure. What is the right figure, the cost of erecting those statues?
Okay, the cost of erecting those statues, I'll put them together and then I'll make it public.
Okay, you don't have the figures right now.
I don't have the figures here.
All right, let's also look at the title. Let's also look at the title that was conferred on Zuma.
Where did they get the figure from?
Because you didn't come out with the figure.
They can publish an invoice. Let them publish an invoice of the people who built it.
Where the government is not open with the cost that was expended in the hosting of such events.
It gave room to speculation.
Are they not talking? Why are they not talking about the reason why this man came?
Okay, let's also look at the other angle. The title that was conferred on the president of South Africa. Some people are really worried because that was done a day after a video where an Igbo student in South Africa was allegedly murdered by the South African police. And people were really, really angry. And if you look at xenophobic attacks over the years against Nigerians in South Africa, it has always been a sore one, and most of the victims have been Igbos. How do you reconcile these two?
Okay, thank you. Xenophobic attacks on Nigerians and other Africans is something that is highly regrettable. It is a sad thing and it's condemnable. The government of Nigeria and, of course, that of Imo State government, stand with, Nigerians, to condemn this act. And at the national level between Nigerian government and South African government, I'm sure discussions and efforts have been put together, to make sure that these things are addressed. But mind you, Jacob Zuma is still the president of South Africa, and he still performs official functions within and outside the country. He came from Zambia, on official functions, to Imo. And from Imo, he went to Congo. His government wouldn't shut down on issues or concerns in his country that are being addressed at national levels.
Dr. Ebele.
This is a scheduled visit.
Dr. Ebele.
And he's still performing his, including the issues of xenophobia, including the issue of corruption charges. He's still performing his role as president.
Dr. Ebele, let me just ask you on a party note. Is there a timeline, a time frame when we shall start seeing the benefit of this visit, particularly the economic agreements you said they enter into with individuals and perhaps with the Imo State government?
If you say that again?
I said, is there a time frame? Is there a time frame when we shall start seeing the benefits of these agreement, this economic agreement, economic partnership that other businessmen in South Africa enter into with private individuals and perhaps with Imo State government?
Okay, I think what I can understand from what you said. Are there benefits to it for
a time frame when we shall start seeing the benefits?
Okay, very well. The first thing is this: Imo State, has been developing an international cargo airport. Okay, and we're looking for partners, who will help us to manage this. The team from South African Airways, were part of the team of, the Zuma. And they were here to make assessments on how to make the partnerships, work. And agreements were signed on that. Two, the Ekweme Industrial Park in a master plan, has been developed and ready to go. Also, counterparts, South African businessmen and some members of the Ministry of Commerce of South Africa were also here, and plans were made, to kick off, kickstart, this Ekweme Industrial Park.
Now, I've heard some critics of Imo State Governor say he appears to be wasting unnecessary time on frivolities. The other time, he was part of the presidential delegation to United States. He came back and erected a billboard of himself shaking hands with the then President Obama. And now we have a statue. They said these are frivolities, and the governor seemed to be driving pleasure in wasting taxpayers' money on frivolities.
There's nothing wrong in making Imo State look presentable, to the international community to attract business. And that is what this governor has done. The part of, looking at frivolities or saying that they're frivolities, I don't think is the case. The governor is trying to raise the bar, to raise in the consciousness of the Imo State people that, look, you can look presentable to attract investments, which will benefit the people and the economy of the state.
Okay. I think we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much, Dr. Berens Zeuji, the Senior Special Assistant, Media, that's for Electronics, to Governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so much about Imo State. People are making a jest of the state in the social media, but of course...
But even in South Africa, if you look at the report on social media in the last 48 hours, you also see that even back home in South Africa, Zuma is being seriously criticized for going to Nigeria for what they come to celebrate. Why at home he has so many charges
of
corruption hanging over him and all the rest. And so it's not the visit. It's not only generating controversy in Nigeria. It's also generating
some of the
tweets
from South Africa says we should even keep him here, that they don't need him back. Some others even now say we've seen a country of thieves honoring a thief from another country. It tells you about the level of sadness and of course the way the people both here and in South Africa reacts to such issues. Imo State is one of those that are struggling to pay salaries, and people are wondering why the government will waste so much money in what they term frivolity. But of course, good enough to hear from the state governor so that as our listener, you place all the issues side by side
and draw your own conclusions.
Of course, your own conclusion. Quickly, very quickly, what happened in the Federal High Court in Abuja yesterday? The authorities to Nnamdi Kanu struggled to indeed extricate themselves from the mess they appear to have found themselves in. Enyina Abaribe, a senator, one of the authorities, made an application to, of course, withdraw. But the judge told him that he has three options: either to forfeit the 100 million naira bail bond that he deposited, producing Nnamdi Kanu then file the application for suspension, or, of course, allow the court to adjourn to enable him producing Nnamdi Kanu by November 20. That's when the court will reconvene. He opted for the last option, so the court adjourned, and by November 20, himself and two others, a Jewish religious leader and one other gentleman, I think a chartered accountant, are supposed to indeed produce Nnamdi Kanu in court.
Well, I think it's a tall order. I don't know how they will get out of it, but let's hope that Nnamdi Kanu will be gentleman enough, knowing fully well that some people have signed bond for him, and they stand the chances of losing over 200 million, which is the bond they sign on his behalf. If he does not show up, and then if they cannot pay, the option is prison. So if while he has escaped to freedom, he will now allow those who stood for him to suffer, where it raises critical issues. And the issue it raises is that those who stood for him, was it for political reasons? Was this out of humanity to save him from the ordeal he was going through that time? I think by November 20, we know how it will play out.
Amechi, the lawyer to Nnamdi Kanu also raised another point that they have been trying to sell in the last few weeks about when the military went to, how do it's not, I can't use the word ransack now, at least when they visited his home.
Search his home.
To search his home, yes, that's a better word to use. To search his home, and that it was at that point in time that he lost contact with Nnamdi Kanu, and nobody knows whether he is alive or dead. They've been trying to say that in the last few weeks, but for me, you can't stop the military from doing its work. But I think that it also places a fresh responsibility to always do things, the right way, and under the rule of law.
Okay, High Chief Leo Raymond Dopesi's campaign team made a stopover at the residence of former PDP President Goodluck Jonathan in Abuja yesterday. Of course, the High Chief has been visiting the homes of prominent PDP leaders, selling his aspiration to them, and of course asking for support as he gets set to face others in the December convention of the party. And one statement that came out from the former president is that the PDP has an opportunity to get it right now, that if they get it wrong with the choice of the chairmanship and national publicity secretary, then the party is in big trouble. He says in the past there were allegations that chairman collected money from people wishing to fly the candidate party's flags in different elections, especially governorship election, that they must look for someone who has integrity, who understands the ideas of the party, who will not be corrupt, who will place party's interests and national interests above individual interests. And same with the position of national publicity secretary.
The party actually needs somebody who is bold, who is brave, somebody who has the interest of the party, courage, who has the interest of the party even above his own personal consideration. Because the former head of state, Abdulsalami Abubakar, pointed it out that there is no strong opposition. The PDP has not been playing that role of opposition in this country, and they need a man who can lead them to play that role effectively, because that is the only thing that can recommend them to Nigerians in 2019.
The much we can take on today's edition. Thanks for being part of it. On behalf of my colleagues, have a good evening. My name is Amechi Anapwe.
Bust it.